The Galactic Council's high chamber was a spectacle of alien elegance. Ribbons of bioluminescent light traced the ceiling like rivers of thought, and gravity shifted politely around each delegate's physiology. But despite the grandeur, Earth's representative stood alone in a silence that was not polite. It was poised, waiting to pounce. Commander Rhea Morgan didn't shift in her seat. She didn't blink, even as the laughter began. It started with the insected click hiss of the Vothi ambassador, spread to the gill-fluttered chuckles of the Dragsheen, and finally crescendoed with the bellowing guffaws of Arch-Executor Karet Valuin, the towering Mirian who represented the military arm of the Galactic Council. A warning? Valuin boomed. From a Tier 2 planetary colony? Rhea remained standing at the central podium, her black diplomatic uniform pristine, her expression unreadable. A single strand of gray hair framed her left temple, a reminder she had earned this seat not through birthright, but through war, silence, and survival. Yes, she said simply. Valuin turned to his peers with an exaggerated shrug, his thick carapace clicking against the crystal railing. She warns us not to enter their own planet. Tell me, does Earth now claim immunity from inspection? No, Rhea replied. But certain regions are protected. Your current path of enforcement breaches our sovereignty and violates nothing, Valuin interrupted. Under Article 7 of the Demilitarization Accord, the Council has authority to investigate any member planet for violations. Your Earth signed this charter. There were nods from many representatives. Rhea caught the eyes of a few who didn't, subtle, silent acknowledgments from those who knew better. Some had seen what humanity had done on the fringes. They hadn't laughed. Rhea stepped away from the podium and let the silence stretch. Earth has complied with all inspection schedules, she said. But we reserve the right to restrict access to culturally sensitive areas. Cultural sensitivity doesn't protect weapons, Commander. Then you shouldn't have anything to worry about when you don't find any. Valuin's amusement faded. That was the thing about humans, he thought. Always so subtle. Always pretending to be clever, as if their infant species hadn't just crawled out of its atmosphere a few centuries ago. He made a slicing gesture. A peacekeeping detail will depart within the hour. Just a formality. If your planet has nothing to hide, Earth should be honored by our visit. Rhea nodded, unsurprised. Then I suggest your ships maintain orbital lanes. Do not enter the Andes perimeter or the Nevada exclusion zone. This is your final notice. Valuin leaned in. Is that a threat? A fact. The chamber shifted. Not physically, just in tone. Laughter didn't return. A murmur did, quieter and uncertain. Rhea stepped away from the dais, her diplomatic duties discharged. The council was predictable. Valuin even more so. He was bred for dominance. He had mistaken humanity's restraint for weakness. That was the design. Back in her quarters, she accessed a secure console embedded in her desk. A retinal scan, a 3-digit code, and a pulse signal authorization opened a black window on the screen. She typed, Phase 1, eyes open. The response came in under a second, acknowledged. Stage 1 initiated. Half a planet away, beneath the Andes Mountains, Earth's highest-ranking defense operators watched as the Council's peacekeeping fleet began deployment protocols. 10 ships in total. 2 headed towards South America. 3 more toward Nevada. The rest in holding patterns above Earth's major cities. Orders, ma'am? Asked a colonel from the bunker's main table. Rhea's voice came through clean and calm. Let them land. On the Veritas Lux, Valuin surveyed a tactical projection of Earth. The planet rotated lazily, its atmosphere pulsing faintly under analysis. His command aide, a crystalline entity named Frel, flickered with concern. Executor, Frel said. Their surface signatures are masked. We're detecting anomalies. Localized magnetic shifts, synthetic cloud formations. It's almost like they've learned to spoof scans. Valuin cut in. Clumsy. Juvenile tricks. Let them try. He watched the tiny icons descend. They think their shadows will protect them. Let them learn how bright our fire is. Rhea sat alone in her cabin, her hands folded. No one else was present. She didn't need a committee. The decision had already been made decades ago, by another generation of humans who'd understood what it meant to survive under judgmental skies. She leaned back and whispered, "They'll learn." Her terminal chimed. Council fleet entering Earth's atmosphere. To within restricted zones. She pressed a key. Phase 2 standing by. Inside the Grand Chamber, the mood was shifting. The laughter had gone. Delegates murmured about the disappearance of the first wave's telemetry. One Vothi aide whispered to their ambassador, "We can't locate the descent pods. All 10 vanished below cloud line." Valuin dismissed the chatter. "They are cloaked. Jamming is expected." But his voice had lost some of its thunder. Rhea stood once more at the chamber's center. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "We warned you." She turned and walked out, leaving the chamber quiet behind her. The silence that followed wasn't diplomatic. It was fear. Cloud cover broke over the Andes like torn fabric. 2 sleek council dropships slipped through the stratosphere, guided by precision AI. Their hulls shimmered with adaptive shielding, invisible to all but the most advanced systems. Earth watched anyway. From 3 miles beneath the mountains, deep in a facility officially listed as decommissioned, Commander Elias Grant stared at the incoming telemetry. He didn't smile. He rarely did, even during simulations. But his posture eased. "They took the bait," he said. Beside him, a neural tactician toggled sensor windows. 2 dropships breaching perimeter. 90 seconds to target altitude. No deviation. No caution. Grant nodded once. "Engage decoys. Passive tracking only." Above ground, the air was still. Snow drifted gently over jagged peaks. From a satellite's view, it looked like pristine wilderness. But hidden thermal vents and phased optical grids masked something vast, something engineered for a moment like this. Thousands of kilometers away, the Nevada desert simmered beneath noon sun. 3 additional ships banked through the sky toward what the Council believed was an illegal weapons testing range. Council Agent Thalavin, aboard the lead dropship, had no doubts. "Scans confirm underground energy spikes. Thermal signatures are faint, but consistent with reactor-grade heat." The pilot nodded. "Orders remain unchanged?" "Touchdown. Extract samples. Scan everything." She turned to her second-in-command. "We'll make an example. The Council doesn't tolerate deception. In Earth Command's Western Control Node, embedded beneath what once was Nellis Air Force Base, sensors lit up. Not alarms, nothing overt. Just a slow, blooming pattern of proximity acknowledgments. Rhea Morgan stood at the observation station, arms folded. Around her, screens tracked every detail: descent vectors, AI decision trees, even Council shipboard chatter, siphoned via passive signal tap arrays. She turned to General Okoye. "Time? 6 minutes until they hit the shell. No sign they've noticed the decoys. Any irregular behavior? None. They're confident. They think they're in control." "Perfect," Rhea said. "Activate Ghost Layer." In the Andes, the 2 Council ships reached hover altitude. Scans showed geological anomalies, empty spaces where solid rock should have been. But there were no visible structures. No threat signatures. "Deploying reconnaissance probes," one pilot announced. 8 triangular drones shot from the underside of the first ship, fanning out in synchronized arcs. They disappeared instantly. No explosion. No warning. One moment they were transmitting. The next, dead silence. The pilot frowned. "We've lost, wait, systems." His console went black. Not red. Not blinking. Just off. Static buzzed in the comms, followed by nothing. Then, inside the dropship, every interface lit up red for 0.2 seconds. An artificial neuropulse, alien in origin, but rewritten by human engineers, passed through the ship's core and severed its AI without harming the crew. The vessel dropped like a stone. Just before impact, an unseen force arrested its fall. From beneath the snow, dozens of gravity anchors pulsed in sync, catching the dropship mid-descent and lowering it, gently, into a clearing that hadn't existed seconds before. Inside, the crew sat stunned. "What the hell was that?" someone whispered. No one answered. In Nevada, the Council's 3 ships met similar fates. Their drones deployed. Their scans began. Then, in a coordinated flash of invisible radiation, every active system blinked out. One pilot managed to curse before the lights cut. The ships dropped. Not a crash, but a controlled fail. Earth didn't want martyrs. It wanted witnesses. Electromagnetic dampeners buried in the desert floor softened their descent, pulling them gently to the sand. Automated crews emerged from concealed hatches in the rock, scanned each ship for hostiles, then withdrew without a word. The Council agents aboard were alive, disarmed, and very, very confused. On the Veritas Lux, orbiting high above, Arch-Executor Valuin paced the command bridge. "Status update," he demanded. An aide's expression flickered, a strange mix of alarm and disbelief. "We've lost telemetry on all 5 teams. No distress signals. No impact data. Just silence." Valuin narrowed his eyes. "Jam-resistant link established?" "Yes, sir." "Triple encoded." AI verified. "This shouldn't be possible." He turned to the viewport, Earth rotating slowly below. "Then it isn't. They're playing a trick. Permission to deploy second wave?" He didn't answer. For the first time in hours, Valuin's certainty wavered. What kind of trick disables 5 Council dropships, non-lethally? Rhea watched the silence unfold from Earth Command. "They won't know what hit them," Okoye muttered, watching real-time data. Rhea replied, "They still don't." Back in the Andes, one of the Council agents finally managed to restart a partial system. The interface sputtered, feeding a grainy image to the main console. It showed the clearing, silent and vast. Then it shifted static again, before focusing on something new. Not a tank. Not a weapon. A simple, metal sign, planted neatly in the ground before the ship's nose. In 4 languages it read, "You were told not to enter. This was your first lesson. You're alive because we let you be." The final line pulsed and read beneath it, "Go home." On board the Veritas Lux, Valuin gripped the edge of the display as the same message scrolled across every shipboard screen. A silent broadcast. Untraceable. Universal. His jaw tightened. "Enough games," he growled. "Prepare orbital firepower." A low murmur spread across the bridge. Officers hesitated. One finally spoke. "Sir, if they can do this, to our landing teams, do we know what they'll do next?" Valuin didn't answer. His gaze burned into the planet's surface, now far less familiar than it had been an hour ago. Earth had spoken. And now, the galaxy would have to listen. The stars above Earth glinted like needles, cold and distant. But closer, much closer, an armada bristled with tension. The Veritas Lux, largest vessel in the Galactic Council fleet, loomed in low orbit like a judge ready to pass sentence. Arch-Executor Valuin stared down at the blue-green sphere below. His expression was no longer mocking. He no longer spoke in amusement. His orders were clipped now, calculated. "Target coordinates acquired?" he asked. His weapons officer, a sleek Drake hybrid, nodded. "Orbital laser platforms locked on suspected defense zones. No visible retaliation measures detected. Fire a warning shot first. Let them know who commands this space." He watched the countdown appear on the main screen. 3 seconds. 2. 1. A beam of light carved down from orbit like a finger of judgment. It never reached the surface. In Earth's upper atmosphere, 37 orbital devices activated simultaneously. Long-dormant satellites rotated, revealing previously hidden emitters. To Council sensors, they still read as meteorological tools. That was intentional. The beam struck one of the devices squarely, and vanished. Not exploded. Not deflected. Absorbed. Valuin blinked. Report. The weapons officer's hands moved rapidly across her console. No damage to Earth. The beam was refracted. Something bent the energy, absorbed it into a lattice structure before it could hit. Impossible, Valuin muttered. Sir, we're detecting mass gravitational fluctuation, localized. Artificial. The screen flickered. Earth's orbit lit up. Not with explosions. With formation. In Earth Command, deep beneath the Rockies, Rhea Morgan stood before a live feed. She didn't need to speak. The crew was already in motion. Orbital grid is live, someone announced. Targeting nodes active. Command has final go. General Okoye turned to her. Do we strike? Rhea gave a single nod. Show them the cost of hubris. Non-lethal. Precision only. He smiled grimly. Like teaching a child not to touch fire. High above, the sky shimmered. Dozens of Earth satellites suddenly revealed their true form, angular constructs of matte black plating and soft plasma glow. Weapons bloomed from their surface, unfolding like steel petals. Council ships began reacting, trying to break formation. Too late. In the span of 5 seconds, Earth's orbital defense grid fired. A directed EMP cascade tore across the nearest 3 Council vessels. Power grids died. Artificial intelligences screamed silently and went dark. Emergency systems switched to backup, but the ships were already falling, spiraling away from formation. Another beam, this one sharp and silent, sliced through the propulsion system of a 4th ship. It drifted dead in space. Then came the drones. Swarms of them, invisible to normal optics, deployed from what the Council believed were obsolete launch tubes. They didn't fire. They entered. Piercing hulls with surgical grace, they disabled command centers, data cores, weapon nodes. Crews inside were untouched. Valuin staggered as his flagship rocked under a low-impact detonation. No hull breach, just systems blinking, flickering. What is happening? A voice echoed across the bridge. Not from speakers. Not from external comms. From inside their systems. Executor Valuin. Rhea's voice said, calm and crystalline. You were warned. You didn't listen. Valuin turned slowly. Her image stood in front of the command table, projected from the flagship's own display systems. His AI had been hijacked, subtly, silently. You use force without understanding what you faced. Earth is not a backwater. We have watched. We have learned. And now you have learned too. This is an act of war. He growled. No, she said. This is restraint. You are still breathing because we are merciful. Valuin opened his mouth, but the ship shuddered again. The emergency lights cast everything in red. We can blind every satellite in your empire. We can erase command fleets without firing a bullet. But we won't. Unless you force us. She leaned in, though she wasn't truly there. You entered our house uninvited. We chose not to kill the guests. Her image faded. Panic spread through the Council fleet. Captains screamed across comms. Several tried to retreat, only to find jump drives offline, sabotaged by drones embedded in their hulls. On the Veritas Lux, Valuin slammed his fist against the console. Find her frequency. Trace the signal. Sir, his comms officer said, trembling. She's not broadcasting. She's inside our systems. The signal's coming from our own processors. Valuin's hand dropped. His pride cracked. Prepare a retreat protocol. Back on Earth, Rhea stood still. Around her, staff monitored every shift, every Council attempt at resistance. Okoye lowered his headset. They're trying to reboot comms across the fleet. No counterattacks detected. They're shaken. They should be, Rhea said. But they're not beaten. Not yet. A silent moment passed. Then a young technician turned. We've got a message. From who? Valuin. On the Veritas Lux, a single transmission was sent. It bore no encryption. No pride. Just a direct hail. We request a ceasefire. It read. Open to dialogue. No further engagement. Ria's lips curved. Not a smile. Not quite. Transmit reply. She said. Acknowledged. Stand down. Await terms. An hour later, Earth's defense grid folded silently back into its passive state. The satellites rotated once more, vanishing from Council scans. Drones withdrew. Interference stopped. From the stars, Earth looked unchanged. But every captain in the Council fleet now understood. Beneath that blue sky was a species that had built its weapons in silence. That had watched the galaxy judge them, and waited. And when the time came, they did not roar. They whispered, and the sky obeyed. In the aftermath, silence settled across orbit. Not the tactical kind, the absence of orders or signals, but a deeper, heavier quiet. The kind that followed realization. On board the Veritas Lux, the mood was brittle. No comms chatter. No updates. Valuin stood at the edge of the main deck, eyes locked on Earth's surface. A planet he had once dismissed. A species he had considered irrelevant. His shoulders sagged, not from exhaustion, but from the crushing weight of truth. She played us, he muttered. No, sir, his second-in-command replied. She taught us. Down below, in the heart of the UN strategic complex beneath Geneva, the Council's formal request for terms was already being processed. The encrypted channel opened with appropriate decorum, but the message itself had little of it. The Galactic Council acknowledges Earth's sovereign defense capability and requests a formal diplomatic summit to discuss integration terms, ceasefire conditions, and a re-evaluation of Earth's status. General Okoye read it twice. Didn't take them long. Rhea Morgan stood nearby, arms crossed. Fear accelerates diplomacy. He passed her the tablet. What's our reply? She looked it over. We give them what they need to feel in control. Not what they want. He nodded. Calculated mercy. 3 days later, the summit convened. Not on some orbital station, not in neutral space, but in Geneva. Earth's choice. The chamber was sleek, designed with quiet elegance. No military symbols. No implied threat. But every window offered a view of the skies, where Earth's orbital grid still hummed invisibly above. Valuin arrived last. Gone was the gleaming armor. He wore formal robes now, council regulation. His gait had changed too. Slower. Careful. Rhea greeted him with a nod. Executor. Commander. A pause. Or do I call you something else now? Titles don't matter. Actions do. He glanced at the humans seated across from him, diplomats, scientists, strategists. No generals. No gloating. I misjudged your people. Yes, Rhea said plainly. You did. The summit began. The council opened with familiar language, conciliatory tones, vague references to misunderstanding and re-evaluation. But Earth didn't reciprocate in kind. Rhea presented clear terms. 1. Full recognition of Earth's status as a strategic sovereign member. 2. A permanent seat on the Council Defense Directorate. 3. Mutual inspection protocols. Council ships would now be subject to Earth's scrutiny in return. 4. A binding agreement prohibiting unilateral enforcement actions within Terran space. Valuin hesitated at the last one. You would ask for oversight of our own fleets? Rhea didn't blink. No. We would require it. He looked at her, measuring something deeper than words. And if we refuse? You won't. Because Earth has nothing left to prove. By dusk, the terms were accepted. No applause followed. No ceremony. Just signatures, biometric seals, and silent acknowledgement. Outside, snow began to fall in quiet flurries over Lake Geneva. Valuin stood by the window, watching the city lights blink on, one by one. They said you were reckless, he murmured. Unpredictable. Primitive. They weren't wrong, Rhea replied from beside him. But we're also patient. And we remember how we're treated. You held back. We taught restraint long before we built weapons. He turned to her. You could have destroyed us. Rhea met his gaze. We still could. But there was no menace in her voice. Just fact. In orbit, the Council fleet began its quiet withdrawal. Systems slowly returned to their standard configurations. Drones deactivated, drifting back into their housings. Earth's grid remained in place but dormant, watchful, not hostile. Aboard the Veritas Lux, one junior officer, barely out of academy, sat reviewing Earth's historical files. Her fingers paused on one entry. The Second World War, civilian mobilization and asymmetric defense. Another. Mars colony siege, 12 survivors versus a pirate armada. She scrolled through decades of human defiance. They were never weak, she whispered. Just quiet. Back in Geneva, Rhea closed her data pad. The room was empty now. The Council representatives had departed. The final protocols had been signed. Earth's place, for the first time in history, was secure, not begged for, but earned. General Okoye entered, coat slung over his shoulder. They'll remember today. They'll try to forget, Rhea said. But history won't let them. He handed her a tablet. Drafted your address? She smiled faintly. Just one sentence. The next morning, from a UN broadcast relay, Rhea addressed every known species in Council space. Her message was short. We warned you. You laughed. Now you understand. Earth is not a threat, unless made one. In a small education center on a distant colony, a group of young alien students watched the speech on replay. One raised a tendril. Are humans dangerous? The teacher hesitated, then nodded slowly. Only if you ignore them. That night, Rhea stood on her balcony overlooking Lake Geneva. A child pointed to the sky beside her, a telescope clutched in his hands. Is that where they came from? He asked. She followed his gaze, toward the stars, where ships once loomed and threats once whispered. Yes, she said. Will they come back? Rhea didn't answer right away. Her eyes narrowed slightly. They'll think twice next time. Above them, Earth rotated steadily beneath its silent watchmen. It had spoken, not in conquest but in consequence. And in the quiet that followed, the galaxy listened,